Oh my God, finally at long last. Happy 4th of July, happy Independence Day to all of you Americans, and belated happy Canada Day to all my fellow Canadians. Happy birthday to this glorious nation of ours. May glorious nation Canada. Today, welcome to Scouching Live. We are having a special episode today to close out season 6 of the show. And we're going to be recapping the 2024 draft. If you're not familiar, we cover the draft here. But if you didn't know, I was in Vegas last week, which is why there was no live stream during the draft or any live show. But we are here to recap it. I will also say that we are going to make a video recap series for every team. So this is more just to reflect on the draft itself and take questions about any specific picks or players or whatever before I do the detailed stuff on individual players picked. I'm just going through all the guys that I haven't seen before or have never even heard of, because there were quite a few, and I'm around the middle of the sixth round right now. So just getting through the rest of them. And then we'll get filming. And so we're expecting, by the way, producer AJ is here. And we are expecting next week, I would say, like late next week, something like that. Yep. And then one a day. Okay. So yeah, so we're going to be doing that. And then then after that, we're going to be updating the prospect pyramid. So if you're not familiar with what those are, in the drafted prospect tracker that I offer to premium subscribers, I basically put a general umbrella term next to the player or a tier that they're in, that I basically summarize a player with in terms of their potential. And I have to go through and update those. And then we're going to go team by team and do those. So on that note, thank you very much for joining us. I'm excited. This is going to be a good time. The draft, as always, is a great time. This year in Vegas was spectacular. If they don't do it in Vegas every year, then I don't know what to tell you, because that was awesome. The experience at the Sphere was second to none. It was a beautiful venue. I don't know how to, it was kind of overwhelming at times, sensory overload a little bit, but it was a lot of fun. If they do it in Vegas next year, I mean, my hope that I've been saying to people both in Vegas and since is that they do it in Vegas, but if the teams want to patch in remotely, they open up the floor to like general admission. I thought that would be a really cool idea. So hopefully they continue to do it there. And if you do get the chance in the future, I highly recommend checking it out, because it was really cool. But yeah, I mean, but the draft itself, just for some general thoughts while the questions roll in, and then we'll get to the questions. I mean, I think after day one, and I think most people I spoke to in the league and like other commentators I spoke to, the only thing I think people were really surprised about was that Igor Chernyshov didn't get picked on the first day. But I mean, he went 33rd overall, so San Jose is probably pretty thrilled about that. I mean, honestly, I thought that from 30 to 40 or maybe 45 was when a lot of really solid players went off the board. And then from there, it got kind of a little bit of a slim picking situation. But that's kind of where my list was. The top 50 was where I was kind of excited about guys, and beyond that, who knows? But yeah, I mean, I thought that overall, I mean, I think the NHL draft, I'd have to do the math on this. I'm not sure. I can't confirm it right now. But I thought it was interesting that the NHL draft is kind of swinging a bit more in the let's just take big guys and see what happens direction. And that's fine. You know, I get it. It's a matter of philosophy, and everybody knows that teams follow each other around with strategy sometimes. And not every team was doing that, I don't think. I think you can probably pick through every team and see teams that did that and see teams that didn't. And it's just a matter of different strategies and difference of opinion on the game and all that kind of thing. So that's all fine and dandy. I'm sure there will be questions about individual players. I should also mention, because I just saw a question coming about free agency. You feel free to ask about free agency as well. That's something AJ is more familiar with. I am still in draft mode, but I did look over quickly the free agent signings over the last few days. So I'll try to be helpful, but I might have to lean on AJ a little bit there.
Well, I'll do my best, but I will say that chess has once again taken over my brain a bit, so
right.
I will have to be refreshed sometimes. But I'm still I'd say I still have an okay grasp of what happened. I know that Stamkos is no longer a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning, so
That's
that's
crazy.
crazy and really
That's
cool.
crazy.
I
How
love
long
it
did he
though.
sign? How long did he sign in
4 years,
Nashville?
eight
Oh man.
per.
Hey,
And Marcia
I
so
mean,
too,
I think
right?
he can still play. Yeah, Marchessault too. Like Stamkos can still play.
He
I
can.
remember watching Tampa this year. He can still play. He's not like the Stamkos of days of yore, but
I would say
he's
that
still
he's
got
more
it.
of a power play guy now more than ever. Like he's not necessarily the best driver at even strength,
Yeah,
without a good supporting cast, but like
yeah,
that guy can rip it. And I think it's going to be fascinating to see what happens with Tampa, right? Because you have Jake Gensel coming in place of Steven Stamkos, and that's a crazy move. I love it. I think that's going to be fun.
yeah.
So he's probably going to be that one-timer threat now on the power play, take on that role, and that's going to be great. And you're going to have Kucherov and Point still doing their thing, and the fact that they got rid of Sergachev, that's so crazy. I saw that and I was in the car. My dad thought somebody died the way I reacted. Like,
Oh,
whoa, what? What? And I was like, "Are you
well,
okay, AJ?" Like, "Yeah, Mikhail Sergachev just got traded." He's like, "I thought something important happened, man. I couldn't." It
yeah.
is
I mean,
important, Dad. Come on.
in yeah, Dad, this is my life. But yeah, I mean, at Sphere when they announced that, the whole place went, "Oh, what the swear word!" Like you could hear
Holy
everyone just go,
balls.
"Holy smokes!" Like what is that? And then Utah made another trade for another defenseman. I forget who it was. They got Sergachev and John Marino, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
which was a much smaller deal, but trading Giannis Moser and Connor Geeky, two guys they drafted in the first and second round in the last, second round in the last three drafts or
I
something,
think it's
and a second,
2021 and 2022,
yeah,
right?
right, and then also a second round pick. So basically, who they drafted in the first and second rounds twice for Mikhail Sergachev. I mean, hey, if they really like him and think that he's going to help get them to where they need to be, then all right, pretty wild.
The thing that confuses me the most about the move is I figured they'd just go with Sean Dursey as the guy to quarterback the power play, but
Right.
I understand pack a punch your roster where you can that way. So and Sergachev had an insane year the year
Yeah,
prior when he
he
was
did.
quarterbacking the Tampa power play. But is it going to be the same in Arizona? Like they've got some really good players, but are they Kucherov, Point, and Stamkos level? At least now,
Well,
you could with
yeah,
Cooley, Keller. Like they're not going to ever be that good, I don't think. But
they're going to have the biggest team in the world, though.
and
There's that.
then Clayton Keller and Logan Cooley.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, and also it's Utah. They're gone. Arizona doesn't exist anymore. Thank you very much.
Big
Um,
sad.
but yeah, I mean, it seems like, I mean, also, if you unpack what they have paid over the last few years that ended up with Mikhail Sergachev, a first round pick and a second round pick to trade up to take Geeky, a second round pick on Moser, and a second round pick in this trade. So that's a first round pick and 4 second round picks over the last couple of years to do all the moves that ended up with Mikhail Sergachev on the team. So we'll see how that works out.
But speaking
But
of picks, let's jump
yeah,
right into
yeah, let's
the
get to the
draft and the
questions because
questions.
there's some stuff here. All right, so yeah, about time. Yeah, I know. I've taken my time getting. I mean, I had to recover honestly for a couple of days from being in Vegas for 5 days. But anyway, no, I've been watching a lot of guys and making sure that I don't talk out of my behind about a bunch of these dudes who I've never heard of before. I'd love to hear what you have to say about the final draft Montreal had. Yeah, I've heard a lot of Montreal fans kind of all over the place on how they did. I mean, I don't think their scouting team is at anything to be super critical of. I thought Demidov at 5 was a no-brainer. I mean, that was, and Celine Dion announcing it, that the place went nuts. But Ivan Demidov, it makes a ton of sense. I mean, I don't know what else I can say about him at this point. He's going to be a great player there, and it's going to be great, or at least it very likely should be. Michael Hage going at 21. I had him ranked at 21, so there's that. But I like Michael Hage. I think he's maybe more of a complementary offensive guy. I don't think he's this like enormous steal that everyone should like freak out about. But the fact that he like grew up a Habs fan and like his dad was a Habs fan and his dad since passed away recently, I believe, and like it's a great story. And I do think there is some. It sounds silly, but I think there is some sort of motivational value there. But Hage is a good player, a lot of offensive skill, and it seems from what I've been speaking to Habs fans and Habs people about is like they really believe in their ability to develop skating ability, and so it's their ability to develop skating ability that I think they value a lot. So Hage is a guy who I think does need a little bit of improvements on that, especially on the defensive side with those kinds of things. But I think at 21, it's a great pick. I thought he might go a little bit earlier than that, but that's around the range where I certainly would be having no problem going for him. And then taking, it was weird for them to trade out of the second round, but to get Hage, I guess it makes sense. And I feel like Hage wouldn't have lasted much longer. But in the third round, Koivu and Sawyer. At this point in the draft, it was even getting to the point where I kind of just went, all right, like, I guess you can just take who you like. I had guys that I really liked in the draft and some of whom didn't even get picked. But Koivu, look, your dad is Saku Koivu. So there's that. Sometimes NHL teams just go that direction. I always thought Koivu was just fine, super smart, but like just a fine player. But he's young. You can leave him in Finland for a while and maybe you get like a bottom six forward out of him. Logan Sawyer, I don't really see it that much with Sawyer. I know he scored a ton of points this year. But I said the same thing about what was the guy's name who went to Penn State last year and scored a bunch of points this year from Brooks. I can't remember his name, but he had a great year in the NCAA, and I didn't really see much with him last year. But with Sawyer, I thought that he was just a more skilled player on a more talented Brooks Bandits team. But he brings a lot to the table, I suppose. And again, like you leave him in college for a few years and go from there. Owen Protz, I don't know. I didn't see much with him when I looked up Protz. I did take a look at him because I hadn't seen him since the draft or before the draft. To me, it just sounds like they've watched a lot of the Bulldogs over the last few years, and Protz has just been a guy that they've had in their back pocket. And I think NHL teams past a certain point in the draft just went, you know what, let's just, again, all of the rest of their picks are big players. And so I guess they just went, you know what, this guy's been big. He's a rangy defenseman. He's got an okay shot from the point as well. So let's just go for it, because at this point, if you get anything in the draft, then you've won the pick. There were guys that I liked a lot more, but they weren't 6'3", right? They weren't 6'2", 6'5", whatever. So that pushed them down the board. Tyler Thorpe, again, a guy that I watched going into the draft because a lot of people were talking about him as one of the better re-entries. And again, like if you get a bottom six guy who can just absorb pressure and shoot the puck pretty good, Thorpe is a decent option. Again, I figured he would get drafted. I figured it would be around this range. But he wasn't a guy that I would have really pushed for, but if you like big, heavy, physical, resilient guys who can get the puck to the net and shoot, then he's an interesting option. Vekvanongs, I liked a lot. I like him as a goaltender. I've been watching him. I watched him in Latvia for a bit at the U18s. I think he's a good option there. They seem to know what they're doing with goaltenders a lot of the time, and I think Vekvanongs is a good option. Ben Merrill, I watched him with Chicago. I don't know. I think he's a bit of a long shot. Makar Hanin, I saw Bobrov call him Ivan Demidov light, and I think that's a bit of a stretch. So maybe that was a little tongue in cheek. But Hanin was a guy that I just didn't really see much out of. I know he scored a lot at the VHL level, and that's great. But he just felt like a guy who entered the offensive zone and has a good shot, and it beat goaltenders at that level. And I don't know. I didn't see a tremendous amount. Bergqvist is a guy that I haven't gotten to yet, so I can't speak to Rasmus Bergqvist really. So I don't really know what to say about him because I haven't checked him out yet. So I hope that helps. Thoughts on Carolina? Yeah, Carolina. I don't know. What do you want me to say? Like, Carolina just is a team that has a strategy that is very unique. from a lot of teams. And I was told by a couple of people this year, it's actually kind of funny. I was told by a couple of people, both at the draft and afterwards, that towards like the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds, teams didn't like anybody. Like a lot of teams were just like, nobody likes anyone, so let's trade our pick, or nobody likes anyone, so who's the most tenured scout on the team? This guy who does the Western Canadiens, who do you like? Be creative. Who do you like? And the person would just go blah, and they would pick that guy. So there was like that was happening quite a bit. Apparently in the 7th round, a bunch of teams just wanted to dump their picks. And it was this thing where the demand was 0 for 7th round picks, but the supply was basically infinite. So nobody did anything. Whereas I think in Carolina, like they kind of look at it and go, well, people are a little afraid of Russians, it seems. So they just pointed at their Russian guy and went, who do you like? And he went, well, this guy probably should be a top 60 pick, because they drafted a lot of guys who have a lot of upside that I had on my list that, yeah, like I would have, I mean, of all the guys drafted in the late, like I would not be surprised if Timur Cole, Roman Shokrin, Fyodor Avramov all play NHL games at some point in the future. Not right away, maybe not in 2 years, 3 years, but long term, I could see it. Krutov at 220 is also insane value. I like Krutov, and I think AJ, you mentioned him to me at one point. Was it you? You were watching Russians, or someone was watching Russians, and they're like, this Andrei Krutov guy.
Yeah, I think it was
neat.
me.
Yeah, and so
I don't remember. Like I'm remembering what you're talking about now, but this is like what I was just dipping my toe in, and then really didn't go much further.
I think because you were watching Artemonov or Salayev or something.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Krutov, and yeah, I've always had I like Krutov, like and he's a skilled guy. He's not big, but he's skilled. And I mean, at 220, he was probably one of the best players that I mean, if someone mentioned him, I'd go, yeah, okay, let's do it, and leave him in Russia for a few years. So I thought Carolina did great. I mean, I mean, they drafted 4 guys in my top 2 rounds when they had 2 second-round picks and 0 first-round picks. They drafted 3 guys off my watch list, all of whom I really like: Cole, Siryatsky, and Voulette. And you know what? Like, say what you will about Justin Poirier, I'm not a huge fan, but he's the 6th guy they drafted. So at that point, I don't care. Like, if Poirier was picked at 220 and everyone else was moved up a slot, fine, right? Like, take your swing, whatever. The class as a whole for Carolina, I think, is a banger. And a lot of their strategy just seems to be, we just let everyone else sort of give up on the draft, and then we kind of pick up the pieces and dig under places other people aren't really looking, or people are maybe overlooking, and just kind of find the value there.
And I know in free agency too, man.
They did that. Yes, they did that in free agency too. So
dang it with Scott Walker, I'm so bad.
Yeah, and I know Carolina is thrilled. Like I know for a fact that they are really happy with what they have.
They should be,
and they should be. I think that, and again, like if you wanted to play the let's draft big guys card, all of the guys that they drafted from Russia, except, I mean, especially later on in the draft, are big, and they're really good players. Like they should have been gone. I would argue all of them at least 60 picks higher, like at least. So yeah, Carolina seems to have gotten a couple of, they had 2 guys in my first round that they got in the second round, a guy in my second round in the third round, a guy in my second round in the 6th round, and 3 guys that were maybe 3rd, 4th round picks for me in the 4th and 5th rounds. And then Poirier and Krutov, which they're not bad players. It's just, I don't think Poirier is very projectable, and Krutov is just a long shot because of the role that he probably plays in the future. But Carolina nailed it. I thought Carolina did extremely well, especially for trading down. Like, I don't know, I could go on forever. Tom Fitzgerald said in a presser that it was between Salayev and the Finnish center at 10. Crazy thing to say publicly. There were a couple of teams that did that. I know Craig Conroy very strongly alluded to Berkeley Catton being the guy they wanted, and they ended up with Parekh. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm okay with that. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, the fact that you know, had, I think it would be different to say, well, we wanted this player, but we got this player instead. I'm not sure if I would put it that way. But if you're like, well, it came down to these 2 guys, and that's kind of where we were at, and we went this one direction. I mean, maybe people use that as social media fodder in the future. They're like, oh, look at this dumb GM saying he wanted this other player and that other player went later and ended up better, maybe that's the only thing you expose yourself to. But if that's something you're worried about, then you shouldn't be a general manager. I know, right?
Who cares?
Then you shouldn't be a general manager.
In fact, I'd love that, because the more stuff that we can talk about with the NHL, the better. As long as it's not, Chicago scandal after scandal.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Or like the Arizona Coyotes being no more and all the saga around it. Like stuff like that. Stuff like botched trades. That's fun. Let's have more of that. If we can have more perspective on, oh, we had this guy ranked here kind of thing, right? Like, to me, it was hilarious to see Brian Burke in the 2012 draft that Morgan Riley was drafted. That was our number one guy on our board.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool to see that.
That was probably a good call.
Compared to a lot of the guys who went ahead of him, yeah.
Yeah, probably a good call.
But there were definitely better guys in retrospect. But hey, you know what? It's cool to see that kind of stuff every once in a while.
It was bold. It was bold at the time, and it aged decently well. But yeah, I mean, that to me, that makes sense for Fitzgerald. I mean, I don't think there's any problem with that. Oh God, what's your way too early 2025 draft hot takes? Well, I'm not gonna lie. I've kind of ping-ponged between watching the 2024 guys I've never seen before, and when I get frustrated and annoyed with that, I go to 2025 and just take quick looks at guys. For me, my read, again, it's July, so let's stay calm here. But I have Hagens like at the top, and I think if it isn't Hagens next year, I would be surprised. But then for the next, I'd say 7 or 8 picks, I'd say they're all pretty close. I think people are going to go nuts for a couple of guys. I think people are going to go nuts for Jackson Smith with Tri-City. I think people are going to go nuts for Artem Vilchinsky in Russia, 6'6", 240 pounds, I think. And I was watching him the other day, and he's a big boy and can move pretty well. And I feel like people are going to love that. I will say I have Michael Nisa towards the back half of the top 10. Maybe he was hurt this year and not playing 100%, but I see him as just a very smart, capable glue guy in the ice, like kind of like the Constantinius vibe, just a very smart hockey player who just gets it and moves the puck really well. Other than that, I don't really have anything that I'm really seriously thinking about. And honestly, there's still guys that I just haven't seen much of that I'm digging into still. And obviously it's only July and I still have 2024 stuff to finish up. But I mean, next year in general, I think it's looking pretty good. I think it's going to be very interesting because I think there's a lot of really big rangy defensemen and really small, high skill forwards and not much in between. And so it'll be very interesting to see what people think about all these guys. Like you on defense, you've got Vilchinsky and Smith, you've got Carter Amico, you've got Logan Hensler, you've got Sasha Boumedienne, who's also pretty big. There's a kid in Germany, Rio Kaiser, who I really like. Kurban Limatov in Russia is a good defenseman. He's also really big. There's a Russian defenseman who's really lanky, but I love him, and Vladislav Ukhmalov. Really liked him. Bogdan Pastretsov is another pretty good big defenseman. But then you have a lot of small players like thin, slender guys like Eklund, Banak, Ryabkin. Who else? Actually, I don't think Ryabkin's that small. But you know what I mean. Jack Murtaugh's another one who I've really liked. But, Viggo Nordland's a little smaller. LJ Mooney and Cameron Schmidt are very small, but those guys are going to be interesting. Lev Katzen. There's a ton of them. So it'll be very interesting to see how that shakes out in the actual draft year for sure.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Sam said to us that this is like going to be the resurgency of Sweden for this year.
There's a lot of good Swedes. There's a lot of them.
I just wanted to throw that out there for Sam.
Yes. Victor Eklund, obviously. Anton Frondel looks like a top 5 to me right now. I really like Radivojevic. There are other guys, though. Milton Gastrin, Yves Wozniak, Hugo Haline, Victor Klingsel, Gustav Hillström's. I saw Gustav Hillström the other day. Shout out to Mikhail Holm. He looks pretty good, too, but I don't know if he's like a top-end guy. But there's just a lot of good Swedes coming. Mikkel Eriksson used to play in Sweden. He'll probably play top division in Norway, I believe, this year. But he's pretty good as well. So yeah, Philip Ekberg, also a really talented player. He's gotten a lot quicker over the last season from what I remember. And so he's looked pretty good in the playoffs in Hockey Allsvenskan, or looked pretty good. So yeah, there's a lot of good sweets coming. Thoughts on Justin Poirier? Was size the only reason he went so late despite scoring the most U18 goals in the queue since Crosby? I wasn't surprised at all. There were people who, I mean, if you asked people who are on the NHL side, it did not surprise anybody that he went that late. And same thing with Kiwi Haru. Like, people were sitting there going, how is this guy still available? It's crazy that this guy's still there. Look, teams see Justin Poirier as an extreme long shot, like extreme, right? Like, the way that he plays is not conducive to NHL hockey to me. And I think that that's a thing that NHL teams believed as well. And if for Carolina, he's the 6th guy you're picking, then great. If he's the 2nd guy you're picking, I think NHL teams will look at you and go, that is beyond bold. That is a massive risk, like, because nobody thinks he's going to work out. I see him as a volume shooter from the perimeter who really needs to be driving the bus himself, but isn't the quickest guy or most agile guy or most skilled guy in the world. I mean, if you're 5'8", the bar, even for me, is insanely high. And to me, every time I watched Poirier, it just was like, I can see this guy scoring a ton of goals and having a ton of points in the queue. Again, the queue is not the toughest league out there. It's not horrible, but it is not. It has fallen behind the rest of Canada. And I talked to Joel Henderson in Vegas about this, but you can tell when you watch the U17 camps where they take all the Canadians and there's a quota of people from each region that they have to bring. And he said, and I agreed with him, but because I went and watched some of it too. But he was saying that when Poirier and Massey came to that camp, they were some of the worst players in the whole thing compared to the Western Canadians and the Ontario kids. It was just the physicality and the speed of the game was nothing they were used to. And they ended up, like, I think they put Celebrini with Poirier and just used Poirier as a trigger guy. So if that's, right. But I think a lot of teams looked at him and said, is he an NHL player? Probably not. And for Carolina, they might have gone, well, I mean, if he is, it would be nice and he can score. So let's just make him our 6th guy. And he went off the board. So I guess there it kind of makes sense. But I was not surprised at all that he fell as far as he did. I didn't even have him ranked. Calgary and the Wild had great drafts. San Jose was really good. Carolina did not disappoint either. Yeah, Calgary, I thought, was amazing. San Jose, yeah, they did well too. Minnesota did really well. But yeah, those teams all did really well. We did the Habs already. What about the Hawks draft and free agency? Well, I don't know. Who did they sign in free agency?
Tyler Bertuzzi was
right.
So
Chicago.
They brought in Laurent Brossoit.
Teuvo Teravainen.
Yeah.
That's a neat one. Alec Martinez. They signed a lot of 1-year deals or 2-year deals, so that's fine.
Hit that cap floor, but also bring in some guys who are pretty good players. Like, I love the Teuvo deal. I think he could fit right back in.
Yeah, and he'll play minutes.
Yep, Tyler Bertuzzi, I really liked in Toronto, and I know he didn't have the greatest season at times, but to me, he was a player that was very valuable, even if he wasn't scoring all the time.
Yeah, I thought the back half for him was really good.
Yes,
I thought as he got used to it, I think he got better in Toronto. Yeah, like I think they just added a lot of solid hockey players. I mean, TJ Brody, maybe he finds some level of form and, he'll play minutes, but if he doesn't, they have a lot of young guys that could probably play.
That's a fine
Martinez as well.
That's a fine sort of buy low for him because he was not great in Toronto. Maybe they put him on the left side, see what he can do. But he's a veteran presence to help out the young guys at worst, right? And he'll at least make guys compete for training camp spots, which is still, like, you need that competition. If things are handed to you, it could be really easy to just kind of sit on your laurels. So I think it's good.
Yeah. Okay. So I thought, I think Chicago did well on that front.
Sorry. Well, your video feed is frozen.
My whole computer froze.
Oh, wow.
The whole thing just froze.
If you want to restart, you can hop out for a second.
Or my Google Chrome froze.
Okay.
All right, one moment.
If you need a second, Will, I can just hold the fort and say
I will have to go and I'll have to go and come back.
It's okay. Oh,
Oh, there we go.
You're better now.
Okay, there we go. Wow, that's never happened before. Okay, let me just reopen all my windows here. All right, we're back. We're back.
Apologies, guys.
Yeah, apologies.
Appreciate you bearing with us.
Okay. Yeah, my chat window updated and then everything went to poop. Okie dokie. Where was I? Okay, yeah. So Chicago's draft. I thought they did well. I know that I'm very public about not being the biggest fan of Lev Shinov too, and I just kind of have to deal with it. But they'll get a defenseman. He'll play for them, and he'll be physical and whatever. He'll do stuff for them. It'll be fine. Boisvert at 18, again, higher than I would have taken him, but with time, he could be a good player. Vanacker at 27, I think that surprised me a little bit, but again, a guy who will play and probably fill out a bottom six. And, he's one of those guys who can plant his feet, stick out his butt, and protect the puck and make plays. And that has value in the NHL. Mustard and Spellacy in the third round, I thought were really good swings. Really fast project guys that you can bet on long-term. Both were ranked higher on my list than where they picked him. I had Mustard right with Vanacker, to be perfectly honest. Jack Pridham, I know he has his fans. I didn't have him ranked. I wasn't a huge fan of Pridham, but he does have some tools that are worth noting. I just didn't have him ranked. Joel Svensson was interesting. I didn't think he was going to get picked. Because I was watching Svensson this year when I was watching a lot of Frey and Celine Valenius, and I went, this guy with the puck is like, all he does is really just go to the net and crash and bang, and also can just absolutely slap hockey pucks. And he scored a bunch of goals this year. I think he had like a goal a game and then like 2 assists or something like that. He was the Brandon Peary of the Finnish Junior League this year. So take that for what you will. And Ty Henry, I actually was watching Ty Henry last night, and I think I see kind of what they're getting at there with Henry. I had never seen him before, and I had not really paid much attention to him. I had never heard of him. But like for a 6'4" guy, he's pretty young, pretty lanky. And I thought he did pretty well in the tape that I saw of like monitoring rushes and sort of using his footwork to move side to side and just sort of played really solid defensive hockey. And once in a while, he would just uncork pretty hard shots from the point, but he didn't score anything this year. So to me, I think he might lean a little more defensively, but it's 163rd overall. And honestly, he's one of the few guys that I had never heard of that I kind of sat back and went, okay, I may be able to see what they're kind of getting at here, right? Like, I think I don't know if he's going to ever play, but I can kind of see the if I saw him and someone told me that he was an interesting one, I kind of would go, okay, I kind of see what you're talking about. And if it's the 6th or 7th round, then sure, maybe I take a swing on him. But yeah, I don't know. I thought overall Chicago, I thought they could have done better, but overall, I think they got a really good package of players. I would not be surprised if at least 4 of them play games at some point, like one of Mustard and Spellacy, maybe an outside shot of Svensson being a goal scorer that pops up once in a while, maybe Ty Henry in an extremely long, like they all are guys that I all saw something in. But I think that, all 3 guys in the first round should play games, and one of those 2 of Mustard and Spellacy, I think will get there at some point. All right. Thoughts on the Rangers? The Rangers, they're always interesting. A team that you always kind of know what their strategy is. They drafted 4 times. EJ Emery at 30, I had him in the 40s, but I get it. There's a lot of nice defensive tools with Emery. He's a pretty good forward skater, really powerful guy. I think he's going to get, for me, I see him as more of a defensive leaning guy. Think like a Ryan Lindgren if you're a Rangers guy, like maybe not the most offensive dude in the world, but he can move well enough. He's physical enough. And I think the stronger he gets on his feet, and the quicker he gets with like that, like it's that if you want to be a physical defenseman, you've got to be able to exert yourself really quickly and effectively. And I feel like Emery kind of got turned around a lot. He kind of got bulldozed through by faster players right now. So if he sort of refines that kind of thing, then I think he'll get there. But the way he's wired is there. Is he a first round pick? Look, the way I see it is I think the fundamental thing to keep in mind for me, at least, and this is information about me, guys like Emery, I think, are interesting options and they'll play NHL games, but they're not as valuable to me in the draft as some of the other players that are out there. Like, you could use a first round pick on him and you'll keep your job because he'll probably play on your second or third pair, eat minutes and do whatever, right? Toronto drafting Ben Danford is similar. But for me, I kind of go, yeah, but like, there's a lot of EJ Emerys out there. There's a lot of Ben Danfords out there. There's just not, but there's not that many Alphonse Freys out there. There's not that many Igor Chernyshovs even, right? Like, there just isn't much of that.
Thanks for rubbing it in, Will.
I'm just saying.
No,
I'm telling it like it is.
This is a deliberate attempt to hurt my feelings. That's how
Pretty
I
much.
will take it.
But you see what I'm saying? Like, it's the thing with some NHL strategy where they want those types of players because they can fill out their lineup with them, which is okay, fine, whatever. I disagree, but I also I probably would make more mistakes in that range of the draft if it were up to me, which, whatever, but I'd rather take a chance on stuff that you don't see too often. But I like Emery. It was a fine pick. I had him lower than average, but at 30, when he got picked, I was not surprised at all. And if people really, 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 really wanted him, I could see why, and it's fine. Raul Boyard, I see a really smart player, but I didn't really see a super projectable high-end NHL guy, and I was not surprised to see him fall out of the top 100. Nathan Aspinall is tall. That's a thing. He's big. I've seen him a couple of times this year. I never really like was blown away with what I saw. Of all those big guys in the OHL, I thought Spellacy was the one that I was really interested in. Aspinall didn't really stick out to me all that much, except for literally sticking out because of how tall he is. Rico Greedig, I have not seen yet. I haven't gotten to him yet, so I don't really know a lot. I know I've checked him out over the course of the year. I just didn't write him down. I didn't note him. But I don't know. It's 191st overall, so whatever. But I mean, the Rangers are going to get a player in Emery probably. And again, I also subscribe to the belief that your team has a strategy and an image of a hockey player that they are looking for, and drafting outside of that kind of puts the player at a disadvantage. I think Emery makes a lot of sense for what the Rangers are when you look at who plays defense for that team. And I think that they're kind of looking at that and going, you know what, EJ Emery can learn from all these guys we have, the Lindgrens, the Millers, the maybe Trubas, who knows what happens with him. But yeah, there's that archetype that they clearly seem to like, and Emery fits it just fine. What are the main differences between Adam and David Jiricek? So Adam Jiricek went to St. Louis. I'm a huge fan of both of them. But I do think that Adam is a little bit more of a mobile skater than Jiricek, but not as physical and not as creative offensively. Like, Jiricek is a guy who will use skill and manipulation and, shifting side to side and jumping into the offensive zone a little bit more to generate offense. David, sorry. Adam doesn't really do that as much. He's more of a perimeter sort of footwork focused. I think he's a little bit smarter positionally. But Jiricek is just a more brute force, I'm going to get you type of defenseman. Who they kind of are same but different, if that makes sense. Like, I think their roles in the NHL are somewhat similar. Maybe David is a little bit more offensive leaning, but I think Adam's going to be just fine for St. Louis or with enough time. Does Dean Letourneau display flashes of two-way hockey ability, or is he an all offense 6'7" center with suspect defense? Honestly, man, I don't know. Look, I know that a team out there, when Dean Letourneau was drafted in the first round, I know a team, I was talking to someone from there and they were like, one of our directors was basically like, if you put a Canadian high school player, I don't care how big he is, but if you put him in the first round, I don't want to see that at all. Like, it's just such a weird like thing that goes against the typical biases of, I mean, if anything, it's a very good indication of some of the typical biases in hockey, but like, any Canadian high school hockey player, the only one ever that went in the first round was Mark Jankowski, and that was a shock. And ever since, no one has even brought up the idea of a Canadian high schooler in the first round. And with Letourneau, he gets a pass because he's 6'7", I think. Because that level of play, it's not even close to challenging for him. Like, I just don't think he was challenged there. He could get inside body positioning on everyone because he's 6'7" and bigger and stronger than everyone. He could get to the net and make plays. Goaltending was not nearly as good. Like Canadian high school level goaltending, I'll tell you, I'm a Canadian. If you are a good hockey player in this province, at least in Ontario, you're probably not going to play high school hockey. Probably, right? You want to be in the OJHL even, or the OHL. You want to be there. So Canadian high school is rare to see players, like high-end players, play. So the level of competition is just really low. So they're setting aside the plain old risk of the fact that he just hasn't really been challenged. Like, he hasn't even played internationally yet. You have no viewings of him anywhere but for St. Andrews. So to me, that's an incredible risk to take in the first round, right? Like, I watched Letourneau this year. I didn't think he was amazing. I thought he was a good player. I thought there could be something there, but maybe as a second or third round swing. Like, he was one of the last guys on my list, but that's also because I don't trust a guy playing at, like, like we look at guys playing in the Finnish junior league and we go, okay, they might be good, but that's not a very good level of hockey, right? Like in the Finnish junior hockey league. But for this guy who's 6'7" and playing in Ontario, we're setting a lot of things aside. So to me, it's just the risk is really high, just based on the circumstances. If they're right and I'm wrong and he's a great pick at that range, then great, good for them, right? They did their homework. With Letourneau, I don't know what he is, right? I didn't see him play much defense because his team always had the puck, right? He just wasn't challenged that much. He could barrel his way to the net. He could slap in rebounds. He could get inside positioning on guys. And to me, yeah, he looked good at that level. But what does that mean to you, right? And I know that there were some teams out there that just were like, on the surface, there's got to be a more likely player that we also like that played against more difficult competition, right? I don't know. Maybe it'll work. And it's just a matter of, I think it's bold. And I'm surprised at how many people were putting him that high in the draft to be that bold. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's always struck me as a little weird. But I wasn't surprised. How many of the Hawks prospects do you think end up being top 6 guys from the past 3 drafts? Oh geez. I mean, I could see Levshinov being a second pair. Boisvert, maybe a second line guy, maybe. I don't think I see it with Vanacker. Obviously you have Bedard. I hope Lucas Reichel has a good year. I hope, but I don't know about top 6. Outside chance, maybe Ryan Green. Nazar will be there. Rinzel, probably a second pair at the end of the day. I love Oliver Moore. Nick Lardis is probably top 6 or nothing. I don't know how Nick Lardis is a bottom 6 player. So I don't know. Those guys are the ones that stick out to me. Trying to think of other ones. Yeah, if you really want to be bold, maybe a guy like John Mustard, if you give him a few years in college and he really studies the game a lot more, and maybe he turns out to be a guy that could play on their second line on the wing or third line, fourth line center. I don't know. But that's a bit of a ways away. How down should I be about Anton Salayev, and what are the odds he puts on a Jersey Devils versus getting traded? Honestly, I talked to someone about this after the draft, because I had Salayev a lot lower than people had him. But the Devils are a team where I actually think it kind of makes sense. Like, they've drafted a lot of skill and offense over the last few years, and they have a lot of skill and offense on their defensive group. And to me, it's promising because with Salayev, I could see him in 3 or 4 years. He's going to be in Russia for 2 years, right? Like, that's the thing. He's under contract for 2 more years. And I think he'll be a good player there eventually, especially on the defensive end. He scored half of his production in the first 6 or 7 games of the year, I think. And people thought, oh, who's this kid coming out of nowhere in Russia? He must be the second best player in the league or in the draft. And I'm sort of going, I don't know. I've been watching him for 2 years. I think that's silly, Ev. But yeah, he's going to play. I think Salayev's going to play. I think he is an interesting pick because you can mold him to be the opposite of a Luke Hughes or Simon Nemec or Dougie Hamilton. You can mold him to be that defensive rock who moves well, and just offsets those guys and gives them the freedom to play their way more, right? Like, you have a good option there. Think like a John Marino type player, right? Like a guy where you don't notice him a whole lot, but he's big, he's physical, and he can skate. And there's a plus to that. Would I have drafted him at 10? If it's me, probably not. But I think for New Jersey, it was one of those teams where it actually does kind of make sense. And when you look at who was left on the board at that point, I mean, I totally see the argument for Silayev over a guy like Dickinson at that point, or a Bouillon. Like, the Devils don't need Zeev Bouillon, right? Like, maybe he's the better player, but what are you going to do with him when you have Luke Hughes, Simon Nemec, Dougie Hamilton, et cetera, et cetera? What are you going to, like, that just doesn't make any sense. And I know you don't draft based on what your team looks like now, but even if you, like, with the Devils, they have two guys that are under 22 years old or whatever that basically do the Zeev Bouillon thing. So I don't know. I could see why teams would not be super interested in that. And beyond that, like, Hellenius, maybe a third line center. And Devils fans love to remind me every year that they have enough centers. That's why they didn't draft Cooley. Bronzek Newgard, like, I thought he could make a good Devil, but between him and Silayev at 10, I mean, I had Bronzek Newgard higher, but when you really get down to it, like, I guess they could play similar styles of play and similar roles. Jiricek, there's risk there, but I liked him. Him and Silayev probably would have been in the discussion for me if you really wanted a defenseman. And other than that, like Cole Yzerman, I love Teddy Stiga, but you weren't drafting him at 10. And again, like, they have a lot of guys that can sort of put the puck in the net, and Anton Silayev kind of gives them something that they do need and that they don't really have a ton of at a high level, right? Like, and there is part of me that goes, yes, but they've drafted a lot of guys like this in the past, and they've traded Mukamadulin, traded Ball, traded Ahotiuk, and now they're looking for another iteration of that. That's the only thing where I'm kind of like, I don't know. But Silayev, of all of those players, I'm taking him, right? Like, that's one where I go, okay, 2 years in Russia, he'll play a lot of minutes in the KHL, he'll get better, ideally, and you'll have a guy that can offset those offensive guys. I think it's totally fine. What the hell happened to Ustinkov and Galvis? Galvis I can understand because he's small and has a unique style that's boomer bust, leaning toward bust. But what's with Ustinkov? Okay, so I actually asked around about this quite a bit. Galvis, yes, it's because he's 5'10" or whatever and not very big. And so look, but I'll say this. I'm working on a thing that I will announce later, but it's a thing that I'm working on, and the first version of it is revolving around Lane Hudson and how he played with Montreal this year. And I'll tell you this much. I don't understand how an NHL team could look at a guy like Lane Hudson and how he's playing in the NHL and go, let's never draft guys like that ever again, except for his brother, right? Because Thomas Galvis, he approaches the game with the puck on his stick in a similar way to Hudson. Not the same sort of quickness or skill level, I don't think, but the wiring is there to be similar. And I could see how leaving him in Czech Republic for a couple of years to get better would really make him an impressive hockey player. Like Lane Hudson, from what I've seen, he's still deficient in the areas that I've always felt he's deficient in, but he looks so much more comfortable in the NHL so quickly than I thought he would because of the vision that he has passing the puck, the skill level, the ability to sort of see the ice really well and look up multiple options and sort of not be predictable. And Galvis shows signs of that as well. But it seems like teams said, well, he's not Lane Hudson, so let's take a let's hedge our bets and go in a different direction. And again, like the other thing too, and this is true with Ustinkov as well, take a room of NHL scouts, right? How many are North American in percentage, right? Maybe 80%, 75%. So automatically you have a bias that if guys from North America have seen a guy 5 or 10 times, they're going to have a more strong opinion than the one guy from Czech Republic, if they even have a scout from Switzerland, or the guy from Czech Republic or Slovakia who happens to have been at a game in Switzerland and seen a guy like Ustinkov. He's got to convince everyone else that's worth taking a chance on. So I think by default, it just bumps him down the list. Like NHL teams probably look at guys in the BCHL and go, we've seen him 8 times and he's 6'4" and he's going to go to college. So I would much rather have that because we have more confidence than the 5'9", 5'10" kid from Czech Republic who does have defensive issues. And if he's not scoring, he's not very effective. So whatever, let's go with that. And with Ustinkov, I honestly don't understand it. I don't know. My hunch is that people looked at him at the under 18s and went, well, he's not dominant as a top pair defenseman for this team, so why would we pick him? And then Vancouver drafted Basil Samsonens, who played most of the season at the junior level in Switzerland and is 6'4", 120 pounds soaking wet, and doesn't score at all. And I've seen Samsonens, and someone asked about guys from that Vancouver drafted, and we'll get to that in a second. But so with Ustinkov, I don't know. I mean, look, you don't play in the Swiss top division as a defenseman, as a 17-year-old ever, really. It doesn't happen very often anymore, especially with a team like Zurich, who is a very well-regarded program. I watched him in the second division. I thought he played really well there as well. And I mean, the Swiss team also just didn't really have a whole lot of like offensive pieces for him to work with. And I thought overall, he still drove good results. He didn't have the best moments here and there, but neither did Henry Muse, right? Like neither did Charlie Ellick, neither did Harrison Brunick. And all of those guys got picked they got picked. So I don't know. Again, I think it's like, well, the voice in the room pushing for a guy like Ustinkov is probably extremely quiet relative to the voices in the room that are pushing for the 6'5" guy from Quebec, right? It's just an uphill battle. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like Ustinkov is probably a re-entry candidate. If he has a big summer, he's going to be back at the World Juniors 2 times. So he's going to be in front of everybody playing a lot of minutes. And I feel like if he refines his game a little more, gets a little more mobile and fluid, he's going to be good. I don't know. I loved him this year. I thought he was really interesting. But yeah, the odds are always up against it when you're not a 6'3", 4, 5 European, right? Like it's not, yeah. There's the question. Favorite guy the Canucks drafted? I mean, it's always tough when you draft for the first time in the 3rd round. But I'd say Samsonens, honestly. I mean, Fernstrom is the exciting one. He's probably the best player now. But Samsonens is a really smart and lanky, but really mobile defender. I don't think he's amazing, but for 221st overall, I was pleasantly surprised to see him get picked. There's something there with him, and you leave him in Switzerland for a while. You leave him in Switzerland for quite a while. But he's always been an interesting one for me just to keep an eye on and have in my back pocket all year. And I was pleasantly surprised to see him get picked. What do you think about Andre Becker? Really interesting player. I like Becker a lot. I feel like he's going to go straight to the AHL and be pretty good. But I don't know if he's an NHL player. Again, you're drafting a guy who is pushing 20, if not 20 already. And that's, the clock is ticking already. But I mean, I think he went in the 3rd round, something like that. I'll have to double check. But yeah, I mean, solid player. I thought he was a big reason why Tarek Parasak did what he did this year, and Zach Funk. So maybe there's something there. How many overreachers were selected this time around? Well, I'll tell you. Greater than or equal to 18. Okay. And then this, get rid of that. It looks like you had 35. So about 15% of the draft was re-entries. I will say the one that I loved the most was Trevor Hoskin going to Calgary. Him being the 3rd re-entry picked was hilarious to me because I watched Hoskin at the Junior A tournament, and going into the Junior A tournament, I thought he was the best player in that tournament going in from what I had seen from the research when I was doing puck prep stuff. And I loved him. I was like, this guy can really go. And maybe a guy I have in my back pocket for NCAA free agency after a year or two. But Calgary went ahead and drafted him in the 4th round or whatever. And so that's hilarious to me. Really interesting player. But I thought that was a really fun re-entry guy to pick. Who else? I don't want to spend too long on this, but Noah Powell was an interesting pick later on. Austin Bernovic, I guess, was pretty interesting at 182. But yeah, I don't know. Those guys all are kind of neat. Nate Miskey, also pretty solid. Blake Montgomery. I thought Blake Montgomery was a good pick for Ottawa. That's all good with me. Thoughts on Calgary's draft? They nailed it. I mean, Calgary was so sick. Every pick, I just sat back and went, they're doing good. Like almost every pick in the draft, I kind of saw a player there of some kind, right? Like Parekh at 9, I thought that was a good pick. It's different for Calgary. If they vibe with him, great. Gradin is an interesting one. Someone asked about him also. I'll be very curious to see where he goes in a few years, because the potential is really high. Like the isolated moments where he is really doing the thing are really, really impressive. His offensive zone play and ability to create offense is really, really high end, but it's trying to get him to use his size more and play more intensely and be more engaged in the play, because he kind of floats around looking for offense, trying to chase breakaways. And it's hard to see working in the NHL, but the potential is there. He's a good player. Basha at 41 is hilarious. Battaglia at 62. I like Battaglia a lot. Henry Muse being the 5th guy you draft is, to me, a no-brainer. Like, I don't know if he's an NHL player, but he's a really smart puck mover and it brings a lot to the table that I like. Zarubin's a really good goaltender in Russia. Goalie people smarter than me really like him. Trevor Hoskin, like we talked about, I thought he's a pretty interesting re-entry pick. Luke Misa at 150 is hilarious. He's the 8th guy they drafted, and that's, I was told that Luke Misa fell because teams liked him, but they kind of went, he'll be available later so we can pick someone else. And that happened over and over and over again. And then finally Calgary was like, no, we're going to take him because this is silly. So that works. And Eric Jameson's the other one that I really liked. Eric Jameson's a solid re-entry defenseman who I think brings something to the table defensively, especially. Bit of a shot to him as well. I know Joel Henderson, who I was with, also likes Eric Jameson. So Joel's happy. He's a happy boy with Calgary's picks, and so am I. How many over? Oh, we did that. Thoughts on the Ducks? Yeah, we can do the Ducks pretty quick. I think they picked a lot, but I don't know. Seneca at 3 is, I think, out a little bit crazy. I think Seneca at 3 is a little bit risky, considering who was available. But, maybe they really believe in the potential in his growth and where he goes from here. He's going to play. He's a really skilled winger. Definitely one of the better one-on-one players in the draft. So we'll see where that goes. I think that's a little bit nutty at 3, though. Solberg at 23, trading up to draft him. I love it. I think he's a perfect fit for what the Ducks are trying to be. Pettersson, just a high upside swing, I thought. They drafted 3 guys that I had in my first round. I'm not a big Massey fan. I'm not a huge Precision fan, but I've seen it here and there. Like, he's really young and really big, and who knows. I do like Terrence Smith. They drafted him right around where I had him ranked. Alex Blais is probably the most exciting, skilled player in Quebec this year, I would say. I have a high bar for Quebec. Austin Bernovic late, sure. I mean, he's big. He absorbs pressure well. He brings some good stuff to the table. And Ulyanskis, really raw. I think Ulyanskis, you leave in Sweden for a long time. He's big, lanky, not the best skater, but he can really rip shots and uses it a lot. He's got some tools there to like. So yeah, I thought Anaheim did pretty well. I probably would have gone a different direction at a number of their picks, but I mean, they got good players. A lot of these, I'd say at least 3 of their players or 4 picks they made are exciting enough. And then Blais is a nice swing. Bernovic is a low risk guy for your 4th line, and Ulyanskis is okay. Buyam Richie Kiviharju was solid so Buyam Richie Kiviharju was fine for Minnesota. I mean, I think Richie's going to play. Buyam is a great pick at 12. Kiviharju, I mean, I don't know about Kiviharju, but in the 4th round, sure, whatever. I know you had Stiga really high. Are you excited about him as a Preds fan, even more so than Surin? Thoughts about the Preds' first 2 picks? I mean, I don't know. I knew Stiga probably wasn't going first round. I would have been very pleasantly surprised if he did, because he's 5'10". Again, like he plays a heavy, intense game, but he's 5'10". So that sucks. But for the Preds to get him in the late second round is hilarious to me. That's wild. And I like Surin as well. Surin was a guy who rose on my board a lot as the year went on. And I love the press that he's done, where he's basically like, I want to hit everything that moves. I thought Nashville did really, really well overall. Surin at 22 might have been a bit of a reach to a lot of people, and to me it was a little bit as well, but he's got great skill. He's really physical. He's got a great shot. It's just a matter of settling into a system. Like, can he play in an NHL system and fill some kind of role? Because he does a lot on his own right now, and we'll see where that goes. Stiga, I adore, and at 55, no brainer. I would have been pounding the table for him at 30, let alone 55. Gustafsson, I thought was a good pick at 77. Marquez, I think he's got a long way to go for various reasons, but at 87, for the fourth guy you pick, may as well take a chance. I do like Gosic. I like him almost as much as I liked Marquez for various reasons. Again, can't say much about the goaltending, but I actually went and watched Victor Nurdinger, and I like him as well. If you're going to draft a big dude that no one's ever heard of before, Nurdinger would be a guy that I'd be interested to look at more. Really big, really powerful skater. Not the most skilled guy, not the whatever. He's not going to drive the bus, but he's a great shooter, really, really big and resilient, and that's perfectly fine by me. And also extremely young, so that also works in their benefit. I thought they did well. I've heard a rumor Bouillon dropped because of college player kerfuffles with pro teams. I mean, maybe, yeah. I mean, sure, but I mean, Levshinov didn't go anywhere, and neither did Celebrini. But well, Celebrini obviously is going to go to San Jose, but I mean, maybe that's the case, right? But I also would find it hard to believe that Bouillon wouldn't go to a place like San Jose or New Jersey, Seattle. But you know, I think teams also look at Bouillon and go, is the defending gonna be good enough in the NHL, or is he gonna be that similar to like a Parekh, like that John Klingberg, where you get a lot of production, you get the creativity out of him, but the downsides are there, and that might have bumped him down a little bit. We talked about Misa a little bit. Scouting report on Ben Danford. Yeah, I mean, Ben Danford's going to play. I see him as a bottom pair guy who can kill penalties. Really smart defender, physical guy. I think he's got underrated skill. The skill level is there. At times this year, I had Danford in my 30s. But again, with my philosophy and the way I see it, I just kind of go, yeah, like, he'll play, he'll be fine. But like, I kind of like to think a little bit more excited about players and look at players that bring a little bit more oomph to the game. But Danford's a solid pick. He's a low risk and a guy who will be solid. I think he's going to be a good player. He'll eat minutes, and the Leafs kind of need guys who can eat minutes. Like, their defense group in the pipeline is not amazing, and I think Danford adds a good piece to it, right? Which, fair. And you asked about Holinka. I like Miroslav Holinka. I was surprised he got picked. At a point this year, he was on my watch list. He's lanky. He's got some skill. He's definitely the most fun player I think Toronto picked. I still think he's a long shot, but I mean, he's fun. He's really skilled. He played at the pro level. He'll probably play pro hockey for the next couple of years if he doesn't come to North America. So yeah, if he comes to North America, I'd expect him to be a pretty good producer, though. He's a fun player. Are you still shadow drafting for Carolina, or did you go to Columbus with Waddell? I'm shadow drafting for everyone, actually. Everybody. They all just said, give me your list and we'll go one by one. And yeah. Would the Kings have been better off drafting Stiga or Hudson instead of Greentree? I mean, look, the draft is a funny exercise. I had Stiga really, really high because he plays the way I want my guys to play, right? But in the grand scheme of things, if I'm in a room with 10 other people and they look at me and go, Stiga's really good, but let's try to get him later because Greentree definitely won't be there in the second round, I'd go, fair enough. But if Stiga turns out to be amazing, don't forget if we don't get the chance to pick him. Because I don't know. I wouldn't have picked Hudson. I wouldn't have gone with Hudson that high at all. Greentree, I think, projects really well to the NHL. It's just a matter, like, he projects well to the NHL as he is, but he's going to need to, like, the better he gets in certain areas will potentially elevate him to being a really good NHL player, right? Like he's a good player, solid, brings a lot to the game. It's just he's not the fastest guy, not the most, he's skilled, but it's not game changing enough to like be super high end in the NHL, but it could be. So it's a especially with guys like Letourneau and Baudouin and Surin and all those guys that went ahead of him. I look at it and go, of all of the guys left, probably one of the higher upside swings, and you can sort of let him play in Windsor another year and probably take a step forward with his mobility and everything, because he brings so many projectable traits to the game otherwise that I think it's a solid pickup. Where are we here? I do question Carolina since they draft very few players who have played in the NHL since 2019. I saw that tweet too. And yeah, it can take time. Carolina also they have a bunch of good NHL players. So they're not rushing their guys to the NHL right away. And they haven't drafted very high very often. So yeah, they're drafting a lot. And yeah, they draft a massive amount of hockey players. And like someone else responded already, right? Like Kochetkov is already playing in the NHL. Nadeau had a great freshman year. Nikishin looks like a really good pickup for a 3rd round pick. Scott Morrow probably will play this year. Like they just have a lot of players in the way because they're a really good NHL team too. Like they don't have an AHL team, so they're drafting a lot of these guys and leaving them overseas and just leaving them there or leaving them in college because they should just stay there. So I see no problem with it. They're playing the long game, and again, like if you take a look at Carolina and relative to other teams, I would bet you anything that they are still a better drafting and developing program than a lot of teams out there, especially when you look at how good their actual NHL team is, right? Like look at Chicago. They have a bunch of kids playing defense for 20 minutes a night, but they're dead last, right? Or not dead last, but very bad. Does that mean they draft well? No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that just because they put guys in the NHL and their team is bad, that those draft picks are steals, right? Those players might be good players, but it doesn't mean anything really. So Carolina's the opposite. They're not playing these guys because they have guys in the NHL already. But I think that's starting to change. There's guys that are on their way out and they're going to need to replace them, and guys are getting older, and so over the next 5 years, I think you'll see Carolina do this, but they also have drafted a lot of Russians, and they're not coming over yet because a lot of Russians don't come over until there's an NHL job. So Carolina just goes, okay, we're happy to wait. And they can. How do you feel about Devils? I thought they did well. Yegorov and Truff, yeah, good picks. I thought the Devils did well as well. I know 2025 is far away, but it's interesting since you didn't mention Martone as he's getting hyped to go to 2. Well, yeah, okay, yes. Again, it's July. I love Porter Martone. He's at 2 on my list right now. Someone just asked about hot takes. That's all. But yeah. What was a bigger reach, Beckett Seneca or Tarek Parasak? Oh, Tarek Parasak for sure. That at 17, everybody. I was with Joel Henderson, who's a WHL scout with Puck Preps. His mouth was open, and I've never heard that kid. He's older than me. I've never seen him laugh like that. Really, he just chuckled, and I don't know. I think most people, even the ones who are fans of Parasak, kind of went, ugh, like that's high. That's a risk. Like it's the same thing as Letourneau. It's like you watch Parasak and you go, oh boy, like it's a risk to take a player like that. Actually, Parasak was also staying at the same hotel as me, and I saw him walking around. The guy is 100 pounds. If he was playing on the Victoria Royals this year, he would not have 105 points, and he'd be 100 pounds. Where would he go in the draft? 17th? I don't think so. Right? Like it's very odd. But I don't know. All the best to him. But also, Joel was talking about this, the track record with the Capitals from the WHL, Alexiev, Leeson, Protas, they're all players, but are they really like core pieces or really solid players for those teams, for the Capitals? Not really. Like the Capitals still struggled this year, and they got into the playoffs despite having the worst goal differential of a playoff team ever or something like that. So yes, to me, it was Parasak. I didn't even have him ranked. Seneca, it's a risk, but there you can at least go, but he brings this and this and this and this is, and in the draft, he's good at those things. Red Wings, did you have an opportunity to look into Plant a little more? Yeah, I like Plant. I don't like him as much as Stiga, but he's a very smart player. Plant is very, very, very smart. Becker's a good pick. Landon Miller, I don't know. John Whipple, I thought was a great swing at 144. I know Sam loves him. But I think Whipple's a guy who will need time and a really good coach who can get him to do things that he's capable of that he doesn't do. Really mobile guy, just doesn't really do much with it. But as your fifth guy drafted, sure. Forsland, I didn't really see it with him, but I'm not going to go against Tommy Bergman or whatever his name is with Detroit. He's big, can shoot pretty good, but I watching him at Hockey-Etan, I didn't think he was spectacular. And there have been players at that level who have been draft eligibles and scored like 1.5 points a game, and they never play or even get drafted. So he was kind of less than that. It's just, again, he's 6'3", so probably gets a bit of the benefit of the doubt. And Austin Baker, really high skill, high upside swing in the 7th round. I thought Detroit did pretty well, and Bronsig Newgard fits them, I think, extremely well. Thoughts on Gradine at 28? We kind of went over that. I think it's an interesting pick. It's a risk, but considering who Calgary drafted, like, who cares? He's so much fun. Like if you're going to be able to watch their scrimmages, he'll probably show up really well. Hawks actually have under 10 million in cap space now. They aren't exclusively cap floor deals. They want to be competent. Well, okay, but a lot of those deals are 1 year. Do you feel you get
on too, right? And also hit a cap floor if you're not competitive.
And I mean, Teravainen's a good ad generally, just in general. Like I really like Teuvo Teravainen, and that contract isn't a big deal. It's a bit of money. It's a chunk of change, but it's not like huge. Thoughts on the Preds draft? Do you get the feeling that Wes Clark thinks he's the smartest guy in the room? A little bit. I spoke to a couple of people after the draft, and I think that that's a bit of the thinking out there. But I mean, look, he's pulled some rabbits out of his hat in the past. I do like the defenseman they drafted out of Sweden, Victor Johansson, Anton's brother. I liked him when I watched him this past week. I thought he was an interesting one, but again, you leave him in Sweden for 4 years because he's 140 pounds or something, and he's lanky and skilled. So we'll see what happens with that. And I don't know, the late round picks they made, I didn't see much with them at all, but maybe they have some sort of testing that thinks that they're going to turn out to be great. I don't know. Thoughts on the Preds draft? We went over that already. Just joining now, I know you must despise the Sens draft class. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Sens fans, I'm sorry. I don't think it went great. I do like Blake Montgomery. I think he's a good player. I think he'll bring some stuff to the table that's fun. And I was out with somebody, honestly, the night before. I was out on the town after round 1, and someone mentioned to me Gabe Eliason could be a steal, or not a steal, but a sleeper pick for early in the 2nd round. And it was like one of those situations where I went, ha, ha, but then I noticed their facial expression was like, no, I'm serious. Like it could happen. And I went, oh, okay, great. And I just kind of went on with my life, and it actually happened. Look, I've said this to Sens fans a few times who have direct messaged me about their draft and everything. And it's like, look, the management changed, the ownership changed, the head of scouting left, but the scouts are the same. And the scouts are largely the same as they've been for a number of years. I get the feeling that management is going to look at this class and the last couple and go, let's see what they get out of these guys. And if it's really as bad as people say it is, then we'll think about going in a different direction. But for now, look, Carter Yakimchuk was outside my 1st round. I think he has an extremely long way to go, and he's one of the oldest first-time eligibles in the draft. He's got some fancy moments. He's got some highlights, but taken holistically as a whole picture, I think it's a massive risk. Again, I don't dislike Yakimchuk. I don't dislike any of these players. It's just the risk you're taking and what you're leaving on the board. That's always the thing. And for me, I was stunned when Yakimchuk went 7, and I think a lot of people also were. Even hockey people, I think, were really surprised. I know there was a team that got guys in the 5th and 6th round that they had ranked higher than Yakimchuk. Like, I know for a fact. So there's that. There's that division on this guy, right? Like some teams, like Ottawa, must think he's incredible. Other teams look at him as just one of the pack, right? Down the board, like any of other 40 other defensemen that they're looking at later in the draft. Eliasson, I mean, look, it's an NHL hockey pick, man. Like, he is, to me, Ben Harper, right? Big, decent hands on him, does not do much except antagonize. If you want a guy who will take slashing penalties and cross-checking penalties and be a jerk and annoy everybody on the ice, fine, go right ahead, right? But are you okay with drafting that at 39? For me, not even close. I don't know. Maybe it's the level of surprise and the amount of questioning you can do on that pick is so enormous that he's probably going to win a Norris Trophy one day somehow. I don't know how, but I don't know. I look at Eliasson and I go, okay, I see what you're getting at. They just clearly value things that someone like me thinks are meaningless. Like, Gabe Eliasson is the type of player who will, I've seen him do this. I saw him, I think I've said this before, but I saw him try to throw a guy into his own bench for at least 5 or 10 seconds, like away from the puck, just shoving a guy into his own bench and like grabbing his pants and trying to flip him over. The other team gets the puck and goes the other way on a 2-on-1 and they score, right? Like, are you cool with that type of player? Are you cool with a guy who, after the 30 seconds into a game, will hack a guy as he skates right by him at the defensive blue line and goes in for a scoring chance and then puts you down a man? Because that's happened too, right? Like, this is a guy who will default to, I'm going to take a penalty rather than just play hockey. So if you think you can wrangle that and you end up with a defensive guy, okay. But to me, it's like that. It's that, like, this sounds bad, but I don't mean it this way, but like that caveman gene where it's like, this is going to work in the NHL because this is what helps you win. I disagree with that. Clearly the Senators see that as an advantage. Drafting Javon Moore and Blake Montgomery, I think, also feeds into that. Lucas Ellinis, even to a lesser extent, but those Moore and Montgomery are very physical players. They're very intense. They've got size. They've got mass. There's that too. And Eric Wallenius is also, I thought he was decent when I watched him. I didn't think he was poor at all. I don't think he brings a tremendous amount to the game. And I don't think there's a huge, I don't know. For Ottawa, they only had 2 top 40 picks anyway. I think they punted on Yakimchuk personally, even though he'll probably score a bunch of points next year and have a lot of highlights on the gifts and everything. And Eliasson, to me, was stunning at 39. So I don't despise it because the rest of them I dig. How many left-hand defensemen in round 1 have recent years compared to? Oh, I don't know. I don't have handedness in front of me right now, so I'm sorry, I can't answer that. The Penguins. Yeah. So Brunick at 44. I didn't like him there, but whatever. Tanner Howe, I thought was a fine pick. I had him at 47. Pietila, I haven't seen enough of to really tell you. Väisänen, I thought Väisänen was a very okay hockey player the last few years. I've been watching him since he was a first-time eligible. But he had a good year with Dubuque. Max Swanson was a hilarious pick. I don't think he's going to work, but it's a fun swing, and maybe it'll give fans some fun things to look at when he's scoring a point a game in college for the next 3 years. And Finn Harding is one that I haven't seen yet, so I can't speak to him. But I thought Pittsburgh did okay, especially because they had 2 first-round picks, and then the rest were past 100, so who cares? Thoughts on the Flames? Did that already. They did great. Thoughts on Seattle's forward prospect pool? It's sick. It's gross. Yeah, you shouldn't. John, don't trust Mustard in the study. That's true. Over under on 10 points a game. 10 points a game. Oh, over under 10 points a game if Celebrini or Demidov or Catton played on the same high school team as Latorno did. I mean, I don't know about 10, but it would be a lot. I'm telling you, Canadian high school, it's an afterthought for a lot of people. And I know St. Andrews is a good program. It really is. I think Jonathan Castagna last year, who Utah picked, was one of the only guys who went straight from Canadian high school to NCAA, and he played in the Ivy League, and I think he was like 0.4 points a game or something like that. He was just kind of a guy. So I don't know. And that's a pretty soft conference. So the bar is going to jump real fast for Latorno. 3 players under 5'10" were drafted, 5 players above 6, at 5 players that were 6'7" were drafted. Yeah, I mean, welcome. This happens, right? The NHL goes through cycles. And every time teams chase just big dudes, I don't know. When was the last time that actually worked? I don't know. Colton Parayko, right? I don't know. I'd have to look, but yeah. What's your opinion on the whole Trouba fiasco? Honestly, I don't know enough to really know or care, to be perfectly honest. I don't know. It seems like the Rangers want to trade him, but he's in the driver's seat, it seems, and he doesn't want to move because his wife is a doctor and has a job. And in America, when you're a doctor and have a job, you are probably not a huge fan of moving again and dealing with the healthcare system somewhere completely different. I don't know, but that's just me. Thoughts on Plant over Stiga, considering height wouldn't be a factor? I think it's just with Plant, maybe they think he's a better, smarter puck mover. But to me, Stiga is a guy that I want playing in the NHL. Plant, I think, is a longer-term project, but Stiga already kind of plays the way I want guys to play in the NHL. Who has the highest ceiling among these big boys? Shervin, Scan, Ralph, Kleber, Miskey. Kleber, maybe, and Shervin, maybe, those two. Sam made good points about more baffling it is for Stinkov going undrafted by contrasting with Freinbacher. Yeah, that's fair. I think he did too. But again, like, you see, when you look at a guy who on the ice who is 6'2" or 3, you're going to be more drawn to that player than the guy who is 6 feet tall. It's just the way the human brain probably works. I don't know. It is what it is, but such is life. What are common problems that NHL prospects face during their development journey, and how do teams overcome these challenges? I mean, that's an individual thing. There's 200 kids drafted. They probably all have different problems, right? Like, who knows? And different teams probably have different resources. So I don't know how to answer that question because I'm not all NHL teams and I'm not everyone all at the same time. It's, one thing you'll learn about getting older, Mr. Raybro, is everybody is extremely different from each other and everybody has their own needs and wants and preferences and everything. And a big challenge in any position of control, and a reason why people like managers and directors get paid a lot of money, is because they have to get good results out of a large amount of different types of people, right? And to me, in the NHL, like, this is why I kind of get a little bit side eye when NHL teams clearly seem to go for the same type of player over and over and over and over again, because on paper that might be easier just to manage, but you're setting aside a lot of potential value. How do different playing styles and positions influence the development trajectory of prospects, and how do teams, again, very individual. We could do 8 shows on that probably if you wanted to. I don't know. Do you think TJ Ginla will be a successful center? And if he is, do you think that makes him more valuable in general? I don't think so. I think as a winger, like, his board play is really good. I could see him maybe getting a cup of coffee at center, but I feel like as a winger, he'll be a really, really good one. We'll see. With the Brick Invitational going on, do you remember seeing some of the NHL stars now playing in the Brick? I mean, here and there, yes. I think the earliest one I remember was Steven Stamkos. I saw a video of him there when I was maybe 16, and he's my age, but I think it was just YouTube footage from, when Steven Stamkos started getting on the radar of the world and how good he was at that age. But I mean, I think like Ryan Nugent Hopkins might be the first one that I really remember from the Brick, if I'm remembering correctly, but that was years ago. Golden Age, New Jersey Devils size on the back end. Stevens, Danico, Niedermeyer, all 6 feet with Rafalski at 5'10", size is overrated. This is what I mean. Like, I don't care. Size is a factor, but it doesn't change a thing. It just sets the bar differently. If you're 5'9", the bar is very different. Lane Hudson is a great example of the bar being very, very high, but he has the skill and the skating ability to get there. If you're 6'7", I mean, I call it the triangle of death, right? Like an Anton Salayev with his stick blade as far out from him as it is naturally, and his feet as wide apart as they are naturally. It's the biggest area of empty space to put a puck through that you could find. So it just puts you at a disadvantage, and being coordinated with that size is difficult. You naturally are quite heavy. You have to be strong naturally. So it just changes the equation, right? It doesn't guarantee anything on either end, but it doesn't, just because you have a bunch of 6'4" defensemen doesn't guarantee anything, especially when you set aside a bunch of talented players who are 2 or 3 inches smaller, right? Again, I've done this all the time, but like, I call this my coding punching bag, this little blue toad guy. He's maybe 2 inches tall, right? And this is what people are really hung up about, right? Like the difference between this and this, which to me, if that's what you're really concerned about, okay. But to me, I'm not. I don't really think about it all that much, but whatever. Since Gradin is no longer going to Michigan, how will that impact his development as he pivots to the Q? Well, he'll score a ton because the Q is a step down from the USHL, and he generates offense pretty much on his own, which is really fun. He'll score a lot of points. We'll see how it goes. Thoughts on the Avs taking Ilya Nabokov as the first goalie off the board? I mean, I don't know. He's the KHL playoff MVP. He's much further along in his development. Like, he'll probably be able to get him to the AHL, NHL quicker. And I know they really like him. Really like him. So I would have gone a different direction. But if you draft a guy that is your maybe number one goalie one day, and you think you've gotten that, then great. I love that they drafted Ivan Yunin as well in Colorado. Just going to throw that out there. That guy is awesome. A ton of fun. And Luka Kluchi is also pretty good. I thought they got 3 really good goalies in the draft this year. I didn't like Nabokov as much. I didn't see as much as Kluchi, but I liked what I saw. And Nabokov is, he's got the results. So who knows? Who has the highest ceiling among these boys? Moore, Pikarinen, Precision, Gosic, and Truff. Probably Truff and Gosic, with Moore there as well. I didn't see enough of Pikarinen to know, and Precision, I don't see a ton. Martone, McQueen, and Spence first rounders. Yeah, probably. At least Martone and Spence. McQueen, yeah, probably as well. We talked about Surin earlier. I like him, physical, but he's got great hands and a really good shot. It's, he just needs to learn how to play hockey a little bit better. You know what I mean? Like, he's a very talented player, and talent takes him a long way at his level. But there's rounding out of his game that needs to be here. When's the next episode? Probably not for a while. We're going to be doing draft recaps every day starting next week, and prospect pyramid recaps and sort of preseason stuff from then on. And then we'll do streams starting next season, and we have big things planned. So we'll see. Speaking of Carolina overbaking prospects, what are your thoughts on the McGroarty trauma? I mean, I always thought it was a little weird that they picked him in the first place, but I mean, I don't know. It's tough. The way I see it, and this is just me talking because I'm just an independent guy. I've never been super huge on McGroarty's all-around game. I think he's a great offensive player. The offensive zone, great. Like Matvei Gridin, cool. But with McGroarty, watching him with Michigan this year, again, it's like I don't see him really driving the bus on a team that good so much that I immediately see an NHL player. And if Winnipeg is looking at him and if he thinks, though, that he's an NHL player, and Winnipeg is going to him and being like, look, we just don't want to, we can't guarantee you that job. And his reaction to that is, well, I don't want to be a Jet then. I don't know what you're supposed to do or say or think, right? Like, and I tend to agree with Winnipeg on this. Like, if Winnipeg thinks he's more an AHL guy right now, I tend to agree. I look at who they drafted this year. I look at who they've drafted in the last couple of years. I'm going, it feels like they know what they're doing with players, and they know how to do this with players. So, and I agree with them with regards to McGroarty. But if he is going, no, trade me because I want to be in the NHL, then I don't know. You kind of have to do it. And I don't know. You don't have to trade him. He can just go back to college. But you got to figure that out. I don't know. Thoughts on Ustinkov going undrafted, and if Zetterberg has a good season in the NCAA, do you see him getting drafted? I'm not surprised Zetterberg didn't get picked. I imagine he'll be an okay college player, but I always felt he was just a good Swedish league player. We talked about Ustinkov a little bit earlier. It's just, I don't know. It's a matter of bias, and I didn't think he was great at international tournaments this year, but I saw enough where I really liked what I saw. Why did no one chase? Oh, we just talked about Zetterberg. I mean, yeah, he's just small, not very quick, and he's a very small area player, right? Like, if someone gets in his zone of influence, he can fall apart. And that, for a very small player, is a problem. He doesn't have the speed or the skill level to really escape that reliably. A lot of his production kind of comes on the power play, it seems. And yeah, so I don't think I'm not surprised he didn't get picked. Do you think Kiwi Haru smarts could take him far? I mean, yeah. I'm not surprised he fell that low either. But I mean, it's hard to grow enough to the point where like his skating is a bit of an issue, right? Like he's very small and the skating does like he doesn't monitor defensive rushes super well. It's just he could get there. He could be a really good pick long term. I think that, for me, even I see why there were doubts. It's interesting how size in a sport like hockey has been contested over the decades. Would love to see a case study on the worship of size and its evolution. I mean, it depends. I mean, being big does come with its advantages, but also being small comes with its advantages as well. And, like I've said this to people before, right? Like, what are NHL all-star teams always consisted of? Really skilled, high-end offensive players. Would you go into the NHL playoffs with an NHL all-star team? And if the answer is no, because they're not big enough, then the sport is broken, right? Our understanding of what a good player in our sport is broken. And a guy like, I don't know, Zdeno Chara should be considered the greatest player to ever live, right? Like, is that the case? Probably not. So then if it is, then why do we do the all-star team that way? If you would look at an all-star team and go, I don't know if they'd win a Stanley Cup. Because to me, I'd go, I think they would do really, really well. And I think they would win a Stanley Cup. And I would love to see that as an experiment. And so why would you not want to look for a team full of guys that play like NHL All-Stars rather than trying to round out your roster with guys that will never play in an All-Star game, but will punch and smash and hit guys that can? I don't know. That's just me. I like Sean Walker as a bridge. Badinka was my favorite pick. Yeah, that's very true. And I know they love him. Who's a bigger reach, Eliasson or Pulkkinen? Well, Pulkkinen's taller, so he probably has more reach. I'd say Eliasson, though, was a bigger reach. I think Pulkkinen, you could see a lot of what there is with Pulkkinen. And I like him a lot. I liked him more and more as I saw him. How's BattleBots? Amazing. If you're ever in Vegas, especially if you have kids. I was sitting next to a kid who loves BattleBots. He loved it. He was screaming at the top of his lungs, and it was great. BattleBots was really fun. Highly recommend it if you're ever in Vegas. It's not super expensive either. And it was really fun. I ate red vines, drank a Pepsi, had a great time. It was fun. In free agency, I really think the Canes saw size and efficiency in the market. Yeah, I mean, that's typical, right? Any thoughts on Sam McHugh? He's okay. I don't know. Decent shooter. I didn't see much there that really blew my mind. Why do you think Humphries and Leanders fell so far? Humphries seems like he can be a bottom six guy. I was told that the reputation with Humphries was not amazing, and teams did not seem to like him much, so he fell. But he's got a lot of skill, and so there might be something there. Leanders, I have no idea. I know some teams didn't think he was actually any that good, but I don't know. I thought he was a decent pick at some point, and he went. So I don't know. The Ducks we did. Why did Basha drop? Because he's 5'9". Yeah. Victor Johansson said he was surprised he went fourth round if he thought he was going round 7 at all. I mean, I believe it. I did not. I even asked Mikhail Holm, who knows every Swede ever made, and he's like, I've seen him a couple of times, and I didn't think he was going to get drafted. And when I went and watched him, I kind of went, okay, like I see something there. But look, again, this is the Toronto Maple Leafs. They have access to things that none of us have. They have $1 bajillion invested in development and scouting and data tools that are in a different universe. So who knows? Maybe they have some magic formula that makes their list unbelievably different. But I don't know.
That's why we repeat as Stanley Cup champions every single year.
Exactly.
Right, Will?
Yeah, exactly. And all of the draft picks have gone super, super well. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. They've actually done decently well. Thoughts on Viggo Gustafsson? Yeah, I like Viggo Gustafsson. Like, if you wanted a Swedish defenseman from HV71 that was lanky and tall and decently skilled and could move the puck well, I wouldn't have looked at Elias, and I would have looked at Viggo Gustafsson. At least then I could be like, all right, it's a reach, but like I see where you're coming from. Because I like Gustafsson. It's just I don't think there's a huge amount of upside, and I think he's got a lot of work to go. What are you looking for when scouting a goalie, and how do you measure skating for goalies? I mean, the biggest thing for me with goaltending is athleticism and like how do they track the puck, right? Our goalies, you can kind of tell when goalies are let's say, overcommitting to one side and opening too much of the net, or if they are tracking the puck well, just with those their lateral motion from one side to the next. When they are facing rebounds, how quickly can they adjust their positioning? Are they like a guy like Zarubin? I really liked Zarubin when he was facing rebounds. He faced a ton of shots, but just getting over the puck and hunching over and like making sure that rebounds don't go over his shoulders and anything. He seemed to get that kind of thing. He's a gigantic kid. So yeah, I thought those are the kinds of the things that I'm looking for. Because slow goaltenders, I mean, like a guy like Marcus Zidloff never really stood out to me because he just felt like he was just big, but who knows? Dean's teammate Jack Good scored 6 fewer points at St. Andrews, only scored 1 goal, 1 point in 4 BCHL games. Dean scored. So Jack Good, I thought maybe would have gotten drafted, but Good, I did notice at the Canadian high school level that Good was setting up Letourneau a lot, moving the puck into the offensive zone a lot and helping him get moved. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to talk about Dean Letourneau forever. Thoughts on the Robertson trade request? Well, look, the Leafs have been jerking him around forever, and he just keeps going out there and scoring, and that's what the Leafs need. So I think that if I'm Brad Treliving, I sit him down and I go, look, we're not going to trade you, but we're going to give you a bigger role, and you have to show to us that you are a second line forward on this team and you can play on the power play. Personally, I don't think that discussion even needs to be had because I think he's already there.
It doesn't. But you should just be playing.
Yes, but we're not Brad Treliving and we're not the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, but yeah, I would move heaven and earth to make him happy and not trade.
Promise him the world, please.
Yeah, just go, look, this year is all about you then. You go out there, we're going to play you. If they do, they do. I don't know. Craig Berube, we'll see what he does with him. I don't know.
Like, I don't know. Put him like Matthews enjoys playing with him. Put him next to Matthews. Yeah. You have 2 goal scoring threats like that. A guy who's faster, a guy that Matthews could really work off of. Put that like Matthews, Marner, Robertson. I think would be hilarious to see as a line. Like I think that would work so well because you got the speed, you got 2 goal scorers, and you got Mitch Marner who can do whatever the hell he wants. He can just do his thing.
Yeah. Okay. I saw you respond to that, Adria. Yes. Thank you very much. Yes, we're going to be doing recaps. Pronounce his last name, Alexander Plasovsky. I think that's how it is. Plasovsky or Plasovsky is how it's done. Very lanky boy, shoots pretty good. He's okay. What's your favorite part in scouting? I like to read into players' backgrounds on where they are from and how they got into hockey. It's a good question. I like to get outside of my bubble. Because I'm from Ontario, born and raised, grew up, OHL was the thing, CHL was the thing, didn't know the USHL existed, hockey center of the universe here in Canada, blah, blah, blah. And I think that is still a bias that affects a lot of people in hockey. They go, well, if you play in Canada, then you must be good, right? And so to me, I love to get outside of my bubble and even just the bubble of major hockey nations, right? Like, and I'm not talking about like looking at Kuwait, right? Like that's not what I mean, but like I love watching Swedish hockey. I love watching Finnish hockey because the styles are different and the approach is different, and seeing how they all intermingle and interact is always really fascinating. And so I look at that and I go, that's always really interesting. Like watching the Swiss Pro League and going, this is such a great pro league that, again, with Ustinkov, a 17-year-old playing in this league defensive is amazing. It's great. It's a huge achievement, right? Like they don't do that for anybody. And it's a great level of play, super high skilled. I met a month ago or so, I met Max Nero, who's one of the best, most successful North Americans to ever play in Switzerland. And I asked him about it and he just went on and on and on about how hard it is to play in that league, how difficult and fast that league is. It's not the most physical, but it is fast. And so he's like, look, if you play in that league, it's no joke. You might look at other leagues in the world and go, well, it's not the AHL, it's not the KHL, whatever. But no. Switzerland is a hell of a place to play. So I love looking at places like that. or looking at, really sort of turning over rocks and going, well, maybe this guy could play at a different level or in a different level or with the different players and blah, blah, blah. And then, like Ludwig Johnson, for example, seeing him at the U18s, and I went, he should have been on the team from day one. Like, this guy's pretty good. Like, he's driving good results. It's just, I feel like he plays fancy and people might degrade that a little bit. So that's kind of what I love, is just looking around the world and seeing what's out there rather than sticking to one region and just going, well, in my region, here's how I feel about these people. I get it. People who do that, like talking to Joel Henderson about it, generally he and I kind of come to the same conclusions about these guys generally. But he does have better insight in certain areas. So you do need guys that are very, very familiar with those things and the history of those players. But for me, I just love getting a very broad read of what hockey players are like out there, how they play, what they bring to the game, like all those things, and try to keep it as constructive and positive as I can. What's with the recent trend of teams trading quality players on decent contracts along with a high pick for future considerations? Because those contracts aren't that decent and they want to spend money on someone else, right? That the contracts for them are a roadblock from bringing in someone in free agency that they actually want more. That's really all it is, right? Like, teams are just going, we need to dump this cap and because we have something else in mind. You might think it's good value, and sometimes you might be right, but the teams clearly disagree, right? And clearly other teams disagree as well, because they don't want to send anything in return. How mad, if at all, were you that Iginla did not fall to the Flames? I wasn't mad at all. I didn't think he was going to get that far. In my mock draft, he got further, but in reality, to see Utah take him, I thought that was a great fit. I think he fits exactly what Utah's trying to do in a really positive way, in a good way. I disagree with some of the direction they've gone with their draft picks, but I thought Iginla was exactly what they look for in a really good way. So I was pleasantly surprised, but really excited. Bummed I missed you at the draft. Thoughts on Trevor Connolly? Do you think he sticks in Vegas system, or do they flip him for Leon Draisaitl
They flip him for Leon Draisaitl.
They flip him for Draisaitl, yeah.
No.
No, I think he sticks. I think Vegas, everybody knows the history with him. So I think Vegas will try to keep him on the straight and narrow. I do think it's very funny that a place like Vegas, especially having just been there, drafted that guy, because that place is not conducive to staying out of trouble. But I don't know. Maybe it could work. And if it works, they got a great player. Matthew's draft here in the Swiss League was impressive. Yeah, it was amazing to see him play in the Swiss League and do that well. And that's, again, like, I watched that, and I remember watching him in the Swiss League going, how is it possible that anyone thinks that Line A is better than this guy? How is it possible? Because this is just ridiculous. He was great.
Greatest league of all time. Not close.
Yes. No, not close.
Don't even care.
Yeah. Well, I mean, since in the expansion era, I would say, because I don't even really know how to gauge pre-expansion hockey players, but
Matthews
certainly
would destroy all of them.
Well, yes.
It doesn't matter. This guy is the greatest Leaf I've ever seen, and if you get mad at me, so be it. When it's all said and done, he'll be the greatest American
player ever. Yeah, for sure. And I love Mike Modano. Mike Modano is one of my favorite players of all time. Would you have taken the Sabres trade down with San Jose after seeing the results? Probably. I mean, I would have traded down as many friggin' times as I possibly could, right? Look at what Carolina did. They got 4 guys in my top 40 or something like that. Like, with what I got for team scouting this year, I was thrilled. Like, I was over the moon with it. And you could have, based on where Stiga went, you could have traded down from 31 and gotten him later anyway. So yeah, I trading down, sure. In this draft, yeah, absolutely. Thoughts on the Stamkos situation? We kind of talked about that already. When should we expect Yuri Tihacek to win the Norris? Probably next year. Did we talk about the Seneca pick yet? A little bit. I think it's a little bit of a reach. I like Seneca, but not that much. And I feel like that's a pretty common thought out there. I didn't think he was going to last much longer than 3 if he didn't get picked there. But again, they're going to get a player, a great one-on-one skilled guy. But what did they say no to? That's always the thing. It's not, did I get a good player? It's what did I say no to, right? It's possible that he's the third best player in the draft looking back on it, but I think he's got a ways to go to get there. Over under Connolly on the Knights in 2 years. Over, I think. Probably a little while away. But you never know. And last question of the day. Thoughts on the GOAT Gleb Trikazov. I mean, I'll be very interested to see how he does outside of Omsk. Omsk is a weird team. They seem to have a very individualistic base of strategy. And their pro team that he was on, I think he was their leading scorer on a per game basis, and they were not good. They could not score to save their life. And I thought Trikazov was a little bit outmatched in the KHL. He's still only 19, so there's that advantage. I really hope Carolina knows what they're doing with him, though, because he is a really talented player. And leaving him, like they took Pashin and put him in the AHL, and it didn't really work. They rushed him over, and I thought Pashin was going to be in the KHL for 4 or 5 years. We'll see if him going back to the KHL, he ends up taking a step, and then they bring him back at some point. But Trikazov, we'll see. But I still remain a big fan of him. I saw him in a junior league game at one point this year, and he was hilarious. It was just not even close. So it's not like he's gotten worse or stayed the same. It's just, I think the production, people look at it and go, uh-oh, but he played a lot on a team that wasn't very good or didn't score much, and he scored pretty well. So there's that. And then Murat Huznadinov, I mean, I'm excited to see him with the Wild for a full year. I like him. He's probably a really good third line guy on my team, which is cool. On that note, I think we're going to call it a day. It is
call it a year, actually.
Call it a year. Yeah,
sort
year.
of.
Yes,
a
sort
season.
Of. We will have content coming for the next couple of months, but in terms of live shows, we're done.
Probably
this is going to be
September.
Yeah, probably
mid-September, maybe late September, just
yeah.
to give you guys dates.
Yeah,
roughly.
We have good stuff planned for next year. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be right back at it with 2025. I think we're going to focus more on the draft. I think next year as well. We're going to go back to focusing on that a lot more. Again, draft recap videos coming out over the next month, starting next week. And then the month after that, we're going to be doing prospect pyramids team by team and taking a look at that and previewing the season from there. And then we'll get back in the 2025. Russia starts up at the end of August, and then we go from there.
Yeah, and once we're done all those, like as you were saying, once we're done those pyramid videos, like the prospect pyramid and the draft recaps, then we'll get into streaming. So
yeah,
there's 64 videos that we have planned.
Yeah.
For 64 days.
Well, I got to make one for my picks as well.
So okay, 65. So 65.
Yeah.
So at least 65 days before you get another episode of this. But
yeah,
we're excited. I mean, just like the NHL, we're always looking for opportunities to expand, let's say.
Hey, our expansion fee is a little cheaper, though.
Yeah, it's kind of free.
Yeah, pretty much.
But we've got some stuff planned in the future.
Yeah.
We want to make this a lot bigger, and we're excited if you guys want to come along the ride with us, because I love making content. I appreciate the hell out of all of you for being here and watching our stuff. So we've got more stuff coming for you, and thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. And we'll see you soon before too long. And I hope all your favorite team got all your favorite players, and I love all of them, and I don't dislike anybody ever. And
that's not true.
Please don't. No, I know that's not true. But anyway, it's a fun year. 2025 looks like another fun one. Can't wait to get started. I've already gotten started because I have problems, but good times. Thank you very much, everyone. And we'll see you in a couple of months, and hope the videos tide you over in the meantime.
Yep. Love you all. Go Leafs, go.